Happy Thanksgiving Eve, comic book fans. I am Anchor Pete, and I am ready to dish out our Thanksgiving feast tonight. We got a lot of helpings for you tonight. We got 3 shows to talk about. We got Young Justice. We have Hawkeye. And then we also have Masters of the Universe Revelation. There we go. So I'm with my good friend and co-host, Brian. Brian, what are you bringing to the feast tonight?
I don't know. Information?
Okay. Yes. Well, you know what? I am bringing something to the feast tonight. I'm bringing entertainment. Because I'm going to make us do a little skit. Are you ready for this?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So you're going to be Brian from 2003.
Oh, boy.
And you just saw the movie Daredevil.
Oh, boy.
You're coming out of the theater. Trust me on this. It'll be fun. You're coming out of the theater, and here comes Pete from right now, 39-year-old Pete, and I'm going to talk to you, okay? I'm going to say, Brian, what'd you think about Daredevil? Starring Ben Affleck. Bullseye. That's right. Yes.
I was not a fan.
You were not a fan. Well, don't worry. This is the only movie with Ben Affleck as Daredevil, but he will play Batman in the future.
Oh, God.
Yes. But he's not going to be Batman right away. First of all, we have to have a guy named Christian Bale playing. He was in this movie American Psycho.
Which I might have seen at the time.
Yes.
When did that come out? That was...
And you know that guy Heath Ledger that was in A Knight's Tale?
You know what? I was one of the when they announced Heath Ledger, I actually you know what? I think he actually might do a good job.
Yes.
Most people were really down on that because of movies like A Knight's Tale and 10 Things I Hate About You and all that. But yeah. God, that sounded like such a brag there. Sorry.
Brian, you're supposed to be Brian from 2003.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
You're supposed to be 22 years old.
I forgot.
Yes,
It's hard.
So, but you know how Kevin Smith was in this Daredevil movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of into comics. We saw him do this little skit where he's talking about, making a Superman movie. Well, what's going to be weird? He's actually going to make a Masters of the Universe TV show.
What?
Yes. They're going to have a Masters of the Universe TV show on Netflix, which is going to be this gigantic streaming channel.
What's streaming?
It's pretty much going to dominate everything that you and I talk about, every time we talk to each other.
Okay.
Yes, but Kevin Smith, he doesn't just make that Masters of the Universe show. He also was in the 3rd movie of the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
3rd movie? Sequel trilogy?
Dude, you're nailing it, man. The acting chops are really bringing it. I got one last part. You ready? You know how Ben Affleck in the movie, he's got Foggy Nelson, right? That's his friend.
Yeah.
That's Jon Favreau, right? That guy from Swingers.
Yes.
Well, the weird thing about him, right, is that he goes on and he makes an Iron Man movie of all movies.
That B-level hero?
Yes, that B-level hero. And
who plays Iron Man in the future?
Yeah. Well, it's Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, that kind of tracks.
Yes. And it's such a success. They make 25 other movies after that. in the same universe. One of those movies is Guardians of the Galaxy, and it is a tremendous hit.
I don't even know what that is.
Probably not in 2003, yeah. And another movie is Eternals.
I don't know what that is either.
In 2003, you probably don't. Yes, but I don't know. There was something about this today where I was just thinking about how we're back in the present now. Our skit has ended. But I was thinking about how we're talking about this Kevin Smith run He-Man show, and we're talking about these Marvel shows, and I think that with Hawkeye. What was so great about this first episode of Hawkeye was that it shows how far we've come. Avengers was in 2012, and it's amazing how much has happened since then. And then, you know, Daredevil in 2003, it's like just the whole world was like a different place back then, you know?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to that movie, and I do have to say that I eventually watched the director's cut of Daredevil, and it does make it a bit more watchable. I mean, the same goofy things are there, but they added some like more lawyer scenes, which I think really helped. And I think it definitely was a better movie overall. But yeah, like going back to like Daredevil and Elektra, man, those are some not like the theatrical versions are not good movies. I mean, like, you know, people say that Thor: The Dark World and Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 are the worst MC movies. No, those are the worst like Marvel movies, like by far.
Yes. And you know, you can't forget those Fantastic Four movies, like the second one, or
you know what? I didn't hate those. I didn't mind those. I think the only thing that really bugged me about Fantastic Four, maybe some of the acting was kind of bad. I didn't like that Galactus was like a cloud. That's that was my huge gripe with that. Other than that, I mean, like Lawrence Fishburne was Silver Surfer. That was awesome.
That is
Chris Evans was great as Human Torch.
Yeah, right. And even the Silver Surfer, the body was played by what's his face from
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. I love Doug Jones too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that, but that makes sense.
Yes, the body of Doug Jones and the voice of Lawrence Fishburne. That's quite a sandwich there. But yeah, it's crazy, man. Like so much stuff has happened. This whole week has seemed kind of overwhelming with all this comic book content and like just watching stuff for this show tonight.
Yeah.
And so I thought that because I think that for the most part, you know, there's tons and tons of outlets covering Hawkeye. I'm sure there's a bunch of people complained about He-Man. I want to be the most faithful and keep Young Justice first because I feel like we've been fans since the very beginning, and I want to make sure we focus on that. So
sure.
I was hoping that we could go over to episode 7, entitled "The Lady or the Tigress," and so we learned who the traitor was, didn't we?
Yes, finally, and you know, I really enjoyed that they did like a scene change. So they had Onyx pull a sword on Cassandra Savage, and then they do a scene change, making you think that it was Onyx the whole time, but then they do the whole switcheroo and it was Cassandra the whole time.
Yes, and so things are answered, and there was a big revelation. So first off, spoilers for everything we're going to talk about tonight: Young Justice, Hawkeye, and He-Man. The biggest revelation in the Young Justice episode was we found out how Batgirl became Oracle.
Yes, there was a nice flashback with the beginnings of, because the other Cassandra, who we're not going to call Cassandra Kane because that character doesn't exist here, it seems. The origins of her as a shadow and training under Lady Shiva or her mom. And a scene with the Joker as well, which we've only seen like once or twice in the show.
Yeah, voiced by Brent Spiner from Star Trek: The Next Generation too.
What? Wow! I don't think. I mean, yeah, that does sound like him. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, are you a fan of this version of the Joker?
I would put. There are several other versions I would put ahead of this. I would say.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Just say it one more time.
There were several other versions I would put ahead of this.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, especially like in the animated versions, right? Of course, there's the Mark Hamill version, which just blows everyone out of the water.
Yeah.
The Joker in Batman Under the Red Hood, I always thought that was an interesting take on the Joker. He was played much more like a wise guy, like a Goodfellas type Joker.
Yeah.
And I love that Batman Under the Red Hood Joker too.
Yeah, I haven't watched that in a while. Who does the voice of Joker in that?
It's not someone like that whose name just like pops out right at you. I mean, you might want to look it up or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
But I like Brent Spiner a lot. I think he's a great actor, but just like his delivery as the Joker and like what the Joker was actually saying, I just thought it was like too cheesy. Who's that?
Bender. John.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, well, see, that's a name you recognize, of course. Yeah, big fan of him. But you know, Cassandra or Orphan goes to cut him or take him out, and essentially she takes out Batgirl. And it was so cool because like Batgirl has that one line where she says, "I wasn't trying to save Joker, I was trying to save you." And it definitely seems like Oracle is like a surrogate mother to Orphan.
Yeah, I would say more like a big sister, but yes, because she even alludes to that. She says she's like a sister to me, and I know how you feel about that when talking to Artemis. Tigress.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just a really well done episode once again. It was cool that we actually cut back to Mars too. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Yes, we got a shot of Mars, and McGann went like full Dark Phoenix for a few minutes. Yeah. And we noticed. Well, the characters now know that her brother was not responsible for the kryptonite in that bomb. But I mean, I still think that because we haven't seen the Legion since then, I'm really banking on that the Legion whisked him away somewhere.
Yeah,
and he's not dead.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Do you think that because she obviously everything's telepathic on Mars, like that's how they all communicate? Do you think that she knows that Desaad is the one that gave him the bomb at this point?
I think they would have mentioned that somewhere. Like she would have said that to John, or I mean, maybe not flat out said it to her brother, but she would have at least said something to John, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. I think they would have like revealed that it's like, oh, we found this out. I think that like for the most part, that whole sequence was to kind of absolve her brother of the guilt of potentially like her thinking that he tried to kill her husband to be, and just kind of her saying goodbye to Mars in general. I think that was what that whole sequence was about. It wasn't necessarily like moving the plot forward and finding out about who made the bomb, you know?
Although, where did Superman go?
I mean, well, can he just fly from Mars to Earth?
I mean, I guess, but I mean, like he took the ship there on the way there, so I'm assuming that is faster.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he could fly back home, but
yeah. Wasn't it that they were supposed to set up a thing to have a boom tube be on Mars, or?
Yeah, but I mean that got destroyed or disrupted. I mean, it's possible they could have rebuilt it, but then why aren't? I mean, I guess they had to get the ship back.
Yeah.
So they had to take the ride anyway. Okay, yeah, maybe that's the answer right there then.
Yeah.
And he's got to go home and change those diapers, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, the emergency. That's right. Yeah. So I'm just looking at my notes because I took a lot of notes while watching it, and oh yes, there actually was this great moment that I really loved when you have that sequence where it's Artemis or Tigress, right? And then you have Onyx. What's Onyx's first name?
Isn't it Onyx?
Oh, her name's like Onyx Abrams or something.
Oh, I don't remember again.
Whatever. We're just gonna call her Onyx. So her and Onyx and Cassandra Savage, right? And there's that turn, the double cross, but then they're able to free Orphan, right? And so there's gonna be a standoff, but then all of a sudden the other guys show up, Rictus and the Black Spider and Shade, right? And they're like, oh, the odds are bad because it's 4-2, whatever.
4 against 2.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden, Cheshire showed up, and that was like one of those like fist pumping moments. Like,
yeah, that was pretty great. I mean, I was expecting that to happen, but yes, I actually forgot. I mean, we do see her at the end of the last episode, and I think they allude that she was going, but I mean, I forgot. So it was a nice little surprise there. And another little moment. This is like a deep callback to the first episode of Young Justice, and something my wife and I quote all the time. In the first episode of the first season, Robin says something about why is everyone always overwhelmed? Why isn't anybody ever just whelmed? And Tigress has a little line calling back to that when they were hiding out in the cave. Stay whelmed. And I just got a real huge kick out of that. And it just shows that how deep the world building and connectivity of this show goes. They'll go back to episode 1 from 12 years ago or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, the show, it definitely is expecting guys like you and me to just get the references and just like, have a little chuckle to ourselves. Yeah, it has devoted fans, that's for sure. And they definitely work the mythology around. Like they showed it to where Orphan got introduced and she was about to attack the Joker, and I believe that was the Jason Todd Robin there, right? That was diffusing the bombs.
They do mention Jason. They do mention Jason being dead. I'm not sure. I feel like Jason might have already been dead by then.
So that was Tim Drake?
I would think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, Spoiler was one of the people that cut the bomb, right?
Yes, Spoiler was there. Yeah, so it's got to be Tim.
It's got to be Tim Drake. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, they do reference that something happened to Jason, and so, the Joker must have done something. But that's kind of noble that Barbara would still go to save the Joker's life even after he had potentially killed Jason Todd.
Yes. Yeah. All in the service of not, not watching this young girl turn into a life of being an assassin. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That was a really powerful moment for me. Like that got me. That really got me, honestly.
Really well done. Especially she's kind of like laying on her back and just kind of staring up, and it's like you get that sense that like she can't move, like she's cut. She can't do anything because of the damage that's been done to her. Honestly, it's really cool they chose to do that instead of doing like the whole Killing Joke reason for her being paralyzed.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think the Killing Joke thing could even work in this timeline, honestly. So it was a nice way of doing it and still keeping the same relevant characters. And according to Wikipedia, that was Tim Drake. So
okay.
But I mean, I don't know how you can actually prove that other than maybe the costume being the same. So
maybe like the haircut or something.
Well, he's got the hood on, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, the hood on. Okay, I don't even remember. I had to watch so much shit today just so we could do this episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Same here.
So I'm just trying to think what else. There was this kind of funny part where the Joker, he's doing this whole monologue to I guess Vandal Savage, right? He has this video, and he's like, "You chose Riddler over me, Riddler," and I like when the other villains talk about each other like that.
Yeah, well, the little bat rivalry they have going on, the villain rivalry is pretty good there. So that was a nice little touch there, and I like that he sort of used a riddle pun at the end of his little speech too.
Yeah, and they referenced Penguin and Two-Face too in that episode. They said they were in the middle of a turf war in the present.
Yes.
Yeah. So what? I guess my last thing about Young Justice before we move on to the other stuff is, what was the purpose of them sending a mole in the first place? Was it that they wanted to? They said they wanted the League's intelligence, right? Like, what are they trying to get? The League of Shadows.
I kept thinking that they're trying to get Oracle somehow, or they're trying to like. I kept thinking they were trying to get it to like that little drone thing or something. But yeah. I'm not 100% sure they even know she's there. But I mean, if you're thinking about intelligence and the Justice League and things like that, like, wouldn't you think of Oracle?
Of course,
they're kind of a keeper of all those things.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Tigress has a lot of knowledge, and is a very involved person in the on the team. They still call it the team, but yeah, it doesn't seem like the end goal to me has to be Oracle.
Yeah, I mean, she runs a really tight ship. They have that cool tech where like their eyes light up. They have like, sort of like
yes or no answers. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so well done, and it's honestly, it's kind of like an evolution of what you have in the comics. Some of the stuff they do on the show is like cooler than what they do in the comics.
Yes.
Because one of the things that's cool about the show itself is that it sort of leans heavy into like the espionage, spycraft, ninja stuff, and not so much the like otherworldly, crazy, godlike stuff that they do in the comics a lot.
Well, they do still have that, but it's a little less. It's a little more grounded, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because they have new gods and dark side and all that kind of shit too. But yeah, you're right. It's more grounded. So I Love that show. I could probably talk about it for another 10 minutes, but just in the interest of just knocking out everything, you ready to move on to Hawkeye?
Do it.
All right. Here's my segue for Hawkeye. I texted, I didn't text, I sent a message on Twitter to Danny, and I was talking about how, we're going to talk about Hawkeye. And Danny is like, oh, I don't know if I could watch, a whole show about Hawkeye. Right? And
I believe Danny would say that.
Yeah, right. And so to me, it's funny because I think someone in one of the comments said like Hawkeye's the most boring Avenger in the MCU. And I kind of understand why people would have that thought in their head.
Well, it's like absolutely. No, you finish first.
Well, I'll just say though that like it's because they don't know about the Hawkeye comic by Matt Fraction and David Aja.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the game changer right there. They don't know about Kate Bishop and they don't know about that comic. And I think that once you know about that, then you're like, oh yes, give me this.
Yeah, no, that's the turning point for me as well. I mean, Hawkeye was just an archer, and granted, I used to think his costume was kind of cool when I was younger, but he was kind of like he wasn't a very important character to me ever before. But that series changed that drastically, and he became one of my favorites. And Kate became even one of my top characters in Marvel.
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry.
And I told Danny to read Hawkeye before, like years and years ago. So shame on you.
Get on it, man. Yeah. It's funny because when you watch the first episode of Hawkeye, because they released 2 episodes so far on Disney Plus, when you watch the first one, it seems a lot more like the Kate Bishop Hawkeye series written by Kelly Thompson than the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series.
I mean, it still draws a lot of parallels from that series. There's a lot of connectivity between them, but the Kelly Thompson definitely focuses more on Kate and less on Clint, even though Clint's still there and around in some capacity.
Do you think that they really capture the essence of Kate in the show so far?
Yes, absolutely. I think I was actually I was very speculative about Haley Steinfeld at first. I know she's a great actress, but I wasn't 100% sure that she was right for this. But she was right for this. I can't even think of anybody else who would have done better, honestly.
Yes. So let's pick up let's go by piece by piece because there's a whole bunch of things to talk about for this show. And I think that right away, just the intro itself is really I thought that was really well done. They show the attack on New York. You have the Chitauri flying around, and the girl that played Kate Bishop. It's funny because it's like they're so good at de-aging. That looks like a de-aged Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's just another actress, but like she was in True Grit, when she was that age, and that looks just like her in True Grit.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. They did a great job casting that. So,
speaking of casting, her mother is played by Vera Farmiga. Are you completely caught up with the Kate Bishop Hawkeye series and everything?
Yeah, I read all of it. Yes.
So, is her mom? Okay, spoilers, guys. Is her mom Madame Mask?
No. Her mom is. God, is her mom like a vampire or something? Holy shit!
There's some weird shit in the comic.
Madame Mask is Whitney Frost, so it's not Madame Mask, but maybe they're combining those two things here. Although I'm very curious here because there are definitely some changes to her backstory here in regards to her parents.
Yes.
But I did really like the change that she was in New York during the battle in 2012, and that she saw Hawkeye save her. It was even that same scene where you see him jump off and shoot the arrow, and it was really cool, and and it inspired her, and I really really like that change.
Yep.
And then it seems like her dad passed, but in the comics, both of her parents are villains, I believe.
Yeah. Yes. And at least one of them works directly with Madame Mask.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel.
Yeah,
go ahead. I just kind of feel like you cast Vera Farmiga. It's almost like she has to be Madame Mask. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially with the haircut too.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing there that I think that's where it's got to lead, because they have to have they can't have Kate Bishop without Madame Mask, and I don't think they should introduce the Frosts yet without knowing what's going to happen with mutants. You know?
Holy shit! Wait a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Whitney Frost is related to Emma Frost. Yes.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right.
He's not a mutant, or anything like that. But yes. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, you blew my mind, man. Okay, so that makes me double down on Vera Farmiga being her then.
Yeah, that definitely.
Yeah. So besides that, have you watched Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
I watched most of Breaking Bad. I got to up to about season 5 or so, but I've not watched any of Better Call Saul.
Okay. So one of the characters in Better Call Saul, his name's Lalo Salamanca, and he's related to that family. And he's this excellent villain. He plays shit. I gotta see. I know what his real name is in the comics, but he plays Jack
Duquesne. Jack Duquesne.
Yeah, Duquesne.
Duquesne. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Jack Duquesne. Here's some more spoilers, guys. Sorry, but he's swordsman from the comics.
Yes.
So like that I felt like that was like a little much, where she comes into like her mom's apartment and she's like, "Where are all these swords coming from?" And then he like walks in like, "Okay."
Yeah. And I wouldn't have picked up on it until they said they mentioned the Duquesne name later, because that's what really triggered my memory on the character. But I'm very curious on how they're going to tie that in, because in the comic books, Swordsman was the one that trained and almost raised the orphan Clint Barton.
Right.
And in this, I mean, he looks like he could be the same age as Jeremy Renner. So, I don't see that being the case in the MCU here. So I'm curious with what they're going to do with him, but they're already playing him up as having a little bit of something to hide.
Oh yeah, especially in that second episode.
Yes, but I mean, maybe that's just all a misdirect for Madame Mask. What's her mom's name? I forgot her mom's name.
The mom's name is it Eleanor or no? No, I wrote down Eleanor.
Let's just call it Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, I think that we probably will see Swordsman in this series. I don't know. You might be right. It might be a misdirect.
Yeah, there's no way that they're not gonna just have him be there that much and then not do that. It's got to come up. Right. But it just I'm not sold on villain versus something else yet.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. That'd be interesting if he was something else. I like that actually.
I mean, the other thing to think about here too is that let's say the mom is Madame Mask. So you have Madame Mask, you have Swordsman, you have a villainous Echo, and you have the Tracksuit Mafia. You have Clown, who is in the episode but not in a noticeable way, really. And I had something else too. There was another villain.
Where was Clown?
I saw his name in the credits.
Okay.
His name is Kaz, and it's like Kazimirsky or something like that. But that's him. So I believe it's the guy that when they're chasing after Kate, he pulls his mask off a little bit. I believe that's him. So I think he's like the head Tracksuit Mafia henchman in this.
Okay.
To Echo.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because you're right. He does stand out in the first episode with them. And then in the second episode, he's kind of sitting by himself at a table. And he's got a coat on. Right. Yes. Okay. So that's him. Okay. So, wow. So you got a lot of villains in this.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, who is the main villain in this? I mean, obviously it's not the Tracksuit Mafia. And I mean, we do know that Echo does eventually become a hero. I mean, I'm assuming she will follow that path because she has a solo series coming as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, Echo originally was a Daredevil villain. And that quickly transitioned to being a hero, and is now the Phoenix Force.
Yeah. That's in the Jason Aaron Avengers. I just read that recently. Yeah. Yeah.
So and I'm kind of wondering. I'm kind of wondering if the overarching villain here might actually be a Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin.
Oh man, that'd be so friggin' juicy.
And I'm basing that almost completely on a tweet from Vincent D'Onofrio saying he retweeted like a Marvel like a Disney Plus tweet saying, "Oh, I love all these Marvel shows" or something like that. So I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're in this. You're gonna be in this."
Oh man, that would be like something else if like the MCU just kind of cherry picks what they like from the shows and the other movies. You know, if they take him from the Marvel, the Netflix shows, because I feel like with the Netflix shows, they're maybe gonna say that like they don't count. They're probably gonna say that the Inhumans doesn't count. They already say that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't count, right?
Yeah, no, they already struck the Netflix shows from the record, so they're not parts of the MCU. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, so like if they ever like say like, oh, this is the multiverse stuff, they might show like a quick glimpse, and they might show like the Netflix multiverse characters or the characters from the Netflix shows, but that'll be it. And then they might like still have what's her face, her name's Christine Ritter, who's Jessica Jones. Kristen Ritter. They might have her and like Luke Cage like actually be in it. They'll totally have a different Iron Fist. And then they'll definitely have that Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin because he's so good in it.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the best things about those shows was his portrayal of Kingpin. So
yes, and Charlie Cox too as Daredevil is really.
Oh my god, yeah, and I mean we already know all the rumors about Charlie Cox and Spider-Man, and the rumors of another Disney Plus Daredevil show, which I'm assuming the only reason they haven't announced is because they don't want to spoil his appearance in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, man, not to get too sidetracked with Spider-Man, but like there's so much riding on this movie, like in terms of my own theories and hope and all this, you know. And
right.
Imagine they don't deliver on any of these things that everyone's so convinced are happening. You know, it's.
Yeah, but like that's the way that all this works, right? Is that we all get so worked up and we all like think of all these theories. Like, how many times have people said Mephisto is going to be in like everything, right?
You know what though? Like, yes, absolutely. Mephisto was the most over theorized thing, you know, in 2020. But is that really a huge loss to not have Mephisto manifested in these shows? But thinking about like the continuation of Charlie Cox's Daredevil, the reemergence of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and a Spider-Verse kind of setting, if those things don't happen, then it'll be such a more massive letdown than not being Mephisto, you know?
Very good point. Very good point. I agree. Very well said. Yeah. If they're not in that movie, yeah, there's going to be some pretty harsh tweets out there.
Or either that or Macho Man coming back from the grave to, you know.
Yes, the lizard. Hey, man, that would get me at least 2 trips to the theater for that. So we talked about like the villains and who might be the main villain. But Marvel in general, it seems like there's a very set pattern where it's like you have kind of like the ground level villain that seems like the main threat that the hero engages. And then there's like the secondary villain who's like the true evil, the one that you're not suspecting. And it's like in Loki, how you had the TVA, right? They were the real villains, right? And then like you know, and obviously Black Widow, you have like Taskmaster seems like this main bad guy, but it's just a secondary bad guy. Do you think that in this it might just be that like Madame Mask is the main bad guy and because there's definitely something going on with like her and the family, the Duquesne family.
Yes, because that guy that got killed,
the uncle.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna just go out on a limb and flat out say that her mom killed that Armand guy.
Yeah.
With a sword, trying to potentially frame Jack, and then they're leading us to believe that it's Jack.
Okay. I think you're right. And I got to give you credit, man, because I was not thinking anything like that today at all. I was totally just thinking he's swordsman, he's a villain, and it's just so obvious. And you're elevating the show more than what I was thinking it was going to be. And it's funny because, like, the show, I always talk about the behind the scenes of the shows, right? And for this show, the guy that is the showrunner, his name is Jonathan Igla. And he's worked on Mad Men, and he's worked on Masters of Sex, and another show called Pitch, another show called Shut Eye. So he's kind of worked on, I think, kind of more like dramas and like sort of premium TV, cable kind of stuff. And then the director, who's directed a lot of episodes, his name is Rhys Thomas, and he's directed a bunch of things for SNL. And I think it's kind of funny because when you watch the show, it already kind of reminds me of SNL. I watch SNL a lot, right? And it looks a lot like their digital skits that they do. And I know that the Rockefeller Christmas tree, like the Rockefeller Center, is going to be a set piece for the show too.
Yeah, and they've already talked about it too. So
yeah,
that's probably some foreshadowing.
Yeah. And so the whole reason I was saying all this stuff, just dumping this information, is just because I always try to think of like the vision and what they're going for. And to me, the show was seeming kind of hokey, especially when you went into the second episode and there was that whole the LARPing stuff. I was like, this is a little cheesy. And then the stuff with Swordsman was a little cheesy too. But now, after what you're saying, I think you're making it better than what I was expecting. You know?
I hope so. And I hope I'm not, again, over theorizing to a point where this would be amazing and then we're all let down when it doesn't happen like that. You know what? I didn't think the scenes with the fencing scenes with Jack were too over the top. I thought that was pretty good, actually. And I can maybe see what you're saying with the LARPing, but I did think it was funny when the slow-mo and he's fighting all these guys, kind of like almost like the Matrix. And he's just like, but he's actually really bored and just, doing all
right.
this. I did get a laugh out of that, but maybe it was a little excessive. But I really like how this show, one of the first things we said here is that how nobody is interested in Hawkeye, and how we can totally see that as a character, because basically what they've seen of him is Jeremy Renner in the MCU, and that's it. He has not really had that much of a role, and I think the show does a really good job of setting up that whole thing in the actual world, in the MCU world, where people are kind of overlooking Hawkeye and thinking he's kind of lame and all that. There's a once or twice somebody says, "Oh, you were my favorite Avenger," and he kind of like rolls his eyes because he knows they're only saying that because he's standing in front of them. And I loved that. First of all, the Rogers musical.
Yes.
When I was laughing my ass off when they did the really high note. I could do this all day.
Right.
But one of my favorite things in that whole little sequence there was he turns his hearing aid off when they get to the point where they're first talking about Nat, who he just lost, and then B, either mentioning or not mentioning him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, good point. That musical in itself needs to be mentioned, and that was excellent that he like turned off. Kind of had that sort of like Saving Private Ryan kind of effect where it's like you're seeing stuff, but it's just the ringing or that sound. And I that was very well done when they showed Black Widow dancing around on the stage.
It also kind of doubled as like a PTSD thing too, because he lived through that. It's like almost he's in New York, near where it happened, and he's watching a musical of what happened.
Right. Very well put. Yeah. And one thing I liked, because I especially like that part with Black Widow dancing, but then besides that, they say the thing about the Hulk where they're like, the Hulk is gonna smash, right? And when they go to do that part, that's when he starts to kind of look uncomfortable, and it's because he's worked with the Hulk. He knows how dangerous and scary the Hulk is. Yeah. And it's just this guy with makeup on and like a hoodie on the stage. Yeah. And I love that. The lyrics were so clever and funny too. And one of my favorite parts was he was like, well, I mean, I was there. I know what was going on. And that guy wasn't there. That's Ant-Man. I just love that.
Yeah, that was a good line too. But yeah, they do a really good job of showing how the world perceives him and how he's kind of an underrated hero in a sense.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's going to be part of his arc. His arc seems to be like dealing with Black Widow's death, which of course when her sister comes in, or like her fake sister comes in, that's going to be
right. That's what I was going to say before. When I was naming all the villains, I wanted to mention Yelena because she's going to appear in the show at some point too. Meaning the show is just overstuffed with potential conflict.
Yeah, and there's only 6 episodes, right?
We've seen 2 of them already.
I know. There's only 4. What the hell? That's like a movie. It's just like a movie worth left, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, she'll show up. She'll probably just like kind of become an ally. Echo will become an ally. And then it's like, who are they going to fight against? And I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. But I was going to say, though, for his arc, it's like getting over the trauma of losing Black Widow. And I think that they're showing that kind of with him taking care of Kate Bishop. It's like he's kind of like that's his new other human he's taking care of versus the rest of the Avengers who are all super powered. And then his other part of his arc is just sort of like accepting being a hero, kind of like what you said, you know. And if that's what they're going for, they're setting it up really well so far.
I agree, and I like that all the things he's basically doing are very basic common things too. It's like, you know, Kate's saying like, we're gonna go to your secret base or lair, and he's like, no, we're gonna go to the pharmacy and get some first aid supplies from CVS, you know. I just like that he's just like a regular person, is, you know, trying to go about almost a regular life because he's basically retired in a sense, you know. And also I really like that his overall goal here was just the guilt he feels about wearing the Ronin costume and you know, making so many enemies during the after
the blip.
The blip years. I imagine that he probably did a decent number on the you know, the criminal underworld, but I imagine some of those people weren't there at the time and came back, and maybe they would somehow know about that and want to take revenge. So I really like that. That's his motivation here, is to protect other people from getting hurt from his actions.
Yeah.
Although one question I have about the Ronin and the costume is that in that auction house, and Kristen brought this to my attention, they said, "Oh, this is Ronin's sword and Ronin's costume." Did they ever say Ronin in any of the movies? I mean, it was only in Endgame, so I mean, they never mentioned it.
Yeah, no. They obviously like really kind of blow it up in this and make it into a big thing, and everyone talks about him like the Ronin. You know, he's like a big deal. But that's fine, you know, because Ronin was actually this kind of cool character when Bendis took over and made New Avengers. You know, and you know, here's yet another spoiler, but like Echo was Ronin at some point too, and they might do something like that where she puts on that costume at one point too.
I imagine that's what her show will be.
Yeah. So, in the interest of time, so do you have anything else to say about Hawkeye?
I absolutely love it. Seeing Lucky the Pizza Dog absolutely warmed my heart, and I got to see 2 of my favorite fictional dogs in a week's time with along with Ein and Cowboy Bebop. So I'm just riding a dog high right now.
Yes. Oh, I have not watched that Cowboy Bebop live action show yet.
I've finished it. I blasted through it. It is a flawed show. I do like it, but it is a flawed show.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it on Twitter and stuff, and I mean, it looks cool. Kind of reminds me of like Sin City or something, the way the shots are. But I don't know. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the anime.
Yeah,
so.
I think. I mean, I don't want to get too off the rails here to talk about this, but I would love to talk about it at some point if you ever decide to watch it. I don't think I could recommend it to someone who's never seen the original show, but at the same time, I don't think that everyone who loved the original show would like this.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I got to check it out. But there's so much shit to talk about. There's these 3 shows. Then there's friggin' Super Crooks. That's another Mark Miller.
Yeah.
Right. That's on Netflix.
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, yeah. I think it just came out today too. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know. I'm actually looking to watch that show Arcane, which is a League of Legends show, which I know nothing about, but I've heard
Right,
nothing but rave reviews about it. So I'm
right.
very curious to check that out.
Yeah, yeah. It looks cool and right, and everyone keeps saying it's great too. There's so much freaking content right now. It's like I can barely watch enough just to talk about on our shows, you know.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but speaking of Netflix, though, we got our last thing for tonight. We got Masters of the Universe Revelation, and I thought it was all just one season and there was a break, but they are referring to this as season 2.
Oh, they call it part 2, which is I feel like they've done this with Castlevania, which is the same animation studio. They had or even Voltron as well. Is that the same? Is it old Powerhouse, Madhouse, whatever it is? No, it's Power, whatever it is. They release half of it because it takes so long to make these things.
Yeah.
So they give you little small chunks to kind of keep it relevant, so you don't totally forget about it when it's gone for a year and a half, and you don't have a Young Justice situation where you don't remember a goddamn thing that happened.
Right.
Because it was on 2 years or 5 years ago, depending on what season you're watching.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like I feel like they like split the Masters of the Universe in the right spot. Like that is a good like kind of stopping point and pickup point for the new one. But I didn't realize that it's because of like the animation and stuff. It is like a really freaking beautiful looking show. And
yeah, this is this animation studio in particular is very highly regarded, and they do take a very, very long time to animate because there's so much detail in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of that like stock CGI image stuff that they reuse over and over again. And they do that kind of for the vehicles, but so much of it looks like just like anime kind of awesome artwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you have only just seen the first episode of this new season?
I think I might have started like the first 5 minutes of the second episode, but I didn't get far into it. So yes, I know exactly.
I watched second episode 2, and I actually really like that episode too. But for the first one, it's called Cleaved and Twain. That's the title of the episode. And it's basically like the fallout of Skeletor coming back, and he's like Skele God. Mark Hamill just fucking steals the show in this episode, right?
Yep.
Like it starts out and it's like, I think he's like almost saying like a poem, but he's like just talking about everything that's happened. And he does this fucking beautiful thing where he goes from the Frank Langella type Skeletor of the movie with Dolph Lundgren to the goofy kind of cartoon Skeletor. He just like goes back and forth between them.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing a fantastic job. A lot of exposition from him in this episode, and I really like the kind of position he put Evelyn in.
Yeah,
He basically said that he was dead, and his soul was in that little scepter, and that he was basically like sucking the life out of her to stay alive to get himself stronger so he can come back. It was like a horrible like revelation. Not revelation like the title. And I really like that them kind of elevating him to less of a kind of a comical villain like he was in the original cartoon. Because I mean, it is a lot more campy in the original cartoon. So we're definitely making it a lot more serious this time around, especially with all the character deaths and all the harm that the heroes have endured so far.
Yeah, this one starts out Prince Adam is stabbed, and this episode, the first one, shows the sorceress, right? And she's Tila's mom, right?
Yeah, which I believe is something new for this show. I don't recall that ever being the thing, but I like it. I like the connectivity there. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I assume they're setting up Tila to be the new sorceress down the line.
Right.
Which is interesting because they have her. They seem to have changed her to be much more of a physical person or character.
Yeah.
I almost would have more so bought the Tila in the original cartoon becoming a sorceress rather than this version.
Oh, okay.
Like super ripped and like angry and all this shit. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm down. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you kind of brought that up and the change right there, because there's one point I wanted to make tonight. If someone has listened through this whole thing, is that, I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I didn't really like it, and I'm not going to spoil it for you because I know you haven't seen it, but I know that like some of our friends like it, and I think that the difference with this Masters of the Universe Revelation and that Ghostbusters and Star Wars The Force Awakens and like other things I can't think of off the top of my head is that this feels like a natural continuation of the story. And because it's animation, you can use the same characters, and they're, maybe a couple of years have passed, but they're not like greatly aged. And so it's a continuation of that story with the same characters, and it feels natural. Whereas with these other movies, it's just like you're clearly going back because you want to like reboot this franchise, put new people in there. There is a new character. There's her friend, Tila's friend, but that's pretty much it. And I think that like this kind of stuff shouldn't be done that often, but I think it works in this show.
Yeah, I definitely think so. They took something, they took the bones of the old continuity, maybe merged a few things from the comics with the cartoon, and they just coalesced them together into a more coherent and more dramatic story. And I think it's really paying off to me. Like you mentioned, I haven't seen Ghostbusters, but I imagine you're referring to older characters just appearing out of, just to make it a cameo, just to say, hey, look, remember this? Yeah,
yes.
Those guys, they're here.
Right.
You can kind of move on with things, and I get that. I think we all would have been really curious if something like Ghostbusters would have been made maybe in the late '90s rather than 2021 or 12.
Right.
Sitting on the silence for a while, so like, it's too long. It's too long, and I appreciate that they're continuing something from my childhood. But you're right; it's a lot easier to do with animation than it is to do with live action. And it really, I've been thinking about this a lot lately after reading an article from a voice actor about how this will work with X-Men. Because we know that X-Men 97 is coming back, and I'm super fucking pumped about it.
Oh,
but and I've heard that they will have some returning cast members, and of those, I really hope Cathal J. Dodd is back as Wolverine, because that's still what I hear. That's still the voice I hear. And no disrespect to Steve Bloom, who's voiced Wolverine for like a good 20 years now, but that's the voice I hear. But the person who played Cyclops is dead. And the article I was mentioning was the actress who played Jubilee, who is a white female, and she made a reference to saying like, look, I love the show, I'd love to be a part of it, but if you bring this back, like I don't want to, I shouldn't be voicing Jubilee at this point. And I'm like, like that's great, and I think she is going to be somebody else in the show, which is really cool. But I'm curious how that's going to go and how that will hold up to something like this, because this is actually like a high bar for me right now in terms of continuing things.
Yeah, dude, I totally forgot about this X-Men thing just because there's been so much stuff to watch right now.
Yep.
And that is really interesting that they'll have some of the same people. And then, I mean, that animation style is so distinct for that X-Men cartoon. Like, clearly with this He-Man cartoon, this is an advancement from what they had in the 80s. But that X-Men cartoon was very advanced to begin with, So it's like, what are they going to do from that? And I just wonder. And the guy who played Magneto, he also died too, so you can't use him.
I think there's more than that too. Probably.
I
want to say the guy that played Professor X might have, but I'm not 100% sure. I know for 100% fact that Cyclops is dead. I mean, the voice actor for Cyclops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'd be kind of cool if with that X-Men cartoon, maybe they have some of the alums, some of the people that were in it, but then for the gaps, they fill them in with like established actors that we're going to recognize their voices. Just like we do for this show. Just hearing fucking Lena Headey as Evil Lynn, or the guy that played Sir Davos as Man-at-Arms. One of the things I kind of wanted to just talk about before we wrap this up was that beginning sequence where you see him and Sorceress, and they have the little baby Tila, and then pretty much right after that, Skeletor kills Sorceress. That actually got to me.
Oh yeah.
And with these nostalgia grabs, these kind of things, a lot of times it feels forced when they have these emotional beats. It's like, oh, okay, what are you doing? But I felt like that sequence in particular, especially his voice acting when she died, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, he is absolutely great. It's Liam
Gallagher.
I want to say it's Liam Cunningham, and I should know this by now.
That sounds right, though. That sounds right.
He is absolutely fantastic, and I also love that Man-at-Arms is such like a badass, and he's fighting off Skelegod and Evelyn and Beastman all at once. I mean, he doesn't obviously succeed, but he holds his own for a few minutes, allowing everybody else to escape. So, he's like, I just remember that one episode where he just comes out of nowhere. And then he just like defeats the entire ship of like Merman's guys by himself.
Yeah. It's a great show, and I know that like other guys that are around our age have their complaints, but I think they're happy that Adam is back. And then at the very end of this episode, we see this sort of like roided out He-Man who's able to channel the power without the sword. And I know that like in the original incarnation of He-Man, when they made the toys and they made the original comics that went with the toys, it was much more like Conan the Barbarian and not as like high fantasy as it is in the show. And so I feel like that's kind of a nod to that as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice touch, and it was a nice little reveal too. I thought. I mean, I think we saw it in the trailers and it was hinted at, but it was cool. It was like a little turn. It's like, oh, it was almost like a Rorschach, like, you're not in here with me. I mean, I'm not locked in with you. You're locked in here with me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He had a little like trick in his back pocket, and I really appreciated that that facet of the character.
Yep. I actually had forgotten that from the trailers, and then so when he did that, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this. And he's like, oh man, I'm really excited to talk to you about episode 2 because I really liked the second episode of this as well.
All right. I mean, by next week, I'll probably be able to watch the entire show.
Right.
So maybe we do the whole show. Who knows?
I agree. Yeah, maybe we should just kind of like knock out He-Man and then just kind of focus on Young Justice once a week and Hawkeye once a week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, we got some Thanksgiving stuff to get ready for, but I just want to say that I have always been thankful to have you as my friend, and so I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you. And I have been really thankful to be able to spend time with you pretty much once a week talking about comics. It's a great experience. So thank you. And just to our people that have watched and the people that listen to us on the podcast, which keeps growing, I just want to say thank you for you guys for giving us your time too. And let us know who you are because, we're just grateful that you're there.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you to you as well. This is, I look forward to this point of the week more than almost anything. So, this is a highlight of life right now for me. So.
All right, well, we finished on a nice, corny note. Now we can – but you know what? We got a lot more shit to review. There's just so many freaking shows. And we will be back after Thanksgiving to give you our take.